focusing on women's football on Her Football World.
Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Her Football World, where we talk about all things women's football and the Scotland game. So the first thing we'll talk about is the 24-25 recap. I know we're a good chunk of into the season for 25-26, but I think it's good to give everyone who doesn't really know anything about the women's game a wee recap from last season. So Hibs won it and they obviously got into the Champions League the start of this season. Any thoughts, Laurie?
Yeah, I think first of all, Niamh, thank you very much for having me on. I think for Hibs winning it, it was something that no one ever expected because people just expect whether it's the old firm who invest money or whether it be Glasgow City, who of course for years had a bit of a monopoly on the SWPL.
Yeah, I think it was 14 years in a row they won.
Yeah, I was kind of spotting up earlier and found out 14 years in a row. Obviously, if you're anyone involved at Glasgow City, whether you're like Laura Montgomery or whoever, you are delighted, 14 years in a row. But obviously, Rangers broke that dominance a few years ago, and now obviously Hibs have kind of had their time in the spotlight too. So, it's good for them and it's good for Scottish football, and it shows that women's football arguably had a bit more variety in it than the men's game does in Scotland.
Definitely, I would say that as well. But it wasn't just Hibs that got into the Champions League, it was Glasgow City as well, as they came second. But unfortunately, both their runs in the Champions League didn't go very well. They ended up in the Europa Cup, which has just started this season. And Glasgow City seemed to do quite well until, unfortunately, last night their Europa Cup run came to an end playing Sporting Lisbon. Don't know if you watched that last night, Laurie.
Unfortunately, I didn't, but I do know obviously you were at the previous leg. I saw some of the stuff online, and I imagine this is the thing where when it comes to Scottish women's football, I imagine the likes of Sporting Lisbon or Sporting CP, whatever they prefer to be called these days.
I go between the two, and people think I'm talking about two different teams when I do it.
Yeah, I go between the two as well. Sporting, right?
Yeah.
They look quite similar to Celtic, to be fair, but just obviously they'll have a bit more investment likely than the Scottish teams do, and that's what you have to remember when you're seeing the likes of a Glasgow City or a Hibs on the European stage. I mean, it wasn't so long ago where women's football in Scotland was entirely part-time and trying to juggle their working lives.
Possibly 6 years ago, some of the teams went full-time, but even at that, I think it's still only 5 teams that are full-time. The rest are all part-time.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a challenge to kind of to keep yourself at that elite level when you are part-time. I mean, you see it if you were to go down into SWPL2, where, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a Kilmarnock supporter, and I've actually spoken to the Kilmarnock women's manager before, Jim Chapman, who, of course, has some experience in the men's game as well. And I remember he said to me about how much of a gap there is between the top end of SWPL2, where Kilmarnock are, and Kilmarnock do have some professional players, to even compared to the bottom end of the top tier. There's a big difference in quality.
There's a huge gap.
Bridging that gap is borderline impossible, isn't it, Niamh?
Definitely. It's not even with SWPL1. It's a gap between all the teams in the league compared to their men's side. Like, take for instance, Glasgow City doesn't even have a men's team, but they're still struggling with funding and stuff. I think it's just the women's sport, the women's football side of things. They're just not getting the right investment from the government like the men's team do. Because could you imagine what women's football looks like in this country if they get the same investment as the men's team?
I think it'd be quite incredible, Niamh, in terms of level of different quality. You see, just look across the border at the WSL. I'm not naive enough to say that in Scotland you'd be able to replicate England. Absolutely not. but just
Yeah.
look at what's there. People are starting to follow it more. You're seeing so many young girls just idolising certain young players. I mean, even, dare I say it, on the Scottish football zone, look at the Lionesses.
Definitely.
Look at how they're seen as role models. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see as many young Scottish girls like that. You might find the odd one who loves Caroline Weir or idolises Erin Cuthbert, but there's not too many, is there?
Yeah, it's always seems to, if you ask them who their favourite player is, it's always either a Lioness, someone that plays for the Spanish national team, or a WSL player.
Yeah,
Unless you
absolutely.
specifically ask them, who's your favourite Scottish player?
But then, I don't mean this to sound bad, but if you were to ask that question, how many would unfortunately say, I don't know any Scottish players, or, oh, I didn't realise they were Scottish?
Probably quite a few people, which
Yeah,
is not very good because you should be, I always think you should be backing players for your own country.
absolutely. I mean, I'll be quite upfront in saying that I've not always been the best advocate in terms of I've only actually been to one Scotland women's match. It was Scotland against Ireland as the team were hoping to get to the World Cup under Pedro Martinez Loza. It didn't quite go to plan. But here's the thing, and I think a lot of Scotland fans forget this, and I'm saying this deliberately whilst the Talisman Army's in a bit of a frenzy. The women's matches are free of charge if you have a sports club membership, and if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, they're pretty cheap anyway. So get
Yeah,
yourself along to Hampden when they're there, or if they're hosted across the country, try and get yourself to them.
I'd agree because I think I've only been to two Scotland women's game. One against it was either Denmark or the Netherlands or in England, and see even
Yeah.
the comparison between the two teams, it was shocking. I agree. Erin Cuthbert is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. Especially as the Ayrshire representative in here, I've got to absolutely agree. And Erin Cuthbert is just fabulous. I mean, look, he's playing at Chelsea, really cemented a place there, and appeared really down to earth as well. And that is one of the key differences I would say between the men's and the women's game. It's there's less distance between fans and players. I think we saw it, was it last week or the week before, when the Women's Champions League was on. You had Mary Earps, of course, England or former England goalkeeper, signing shirts and whatever with
Yeah,
some fans at Old Trafford, and you would never see a men's player do that, especially not with a former club. The down to earth nature
definitely.
is something that you should promote in women's football. It's a good family event, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But it's like every women's game, no matter where you are in the country, if you're in Scotland or you're in England, all the players will go greet the fans after the game, take pictures with them, sign their stuff. You never see that in the men's game. It's like maybe you'll see one player giving away their shirt and that's it, and then they're all back away down the tunnel.
Aye, so I think that's something that really sets the game apart. But of course, you've said it. It's about funding. It's about investment. It's about moving the game forward. So it's just, we need more awareness of these games. And here's a little bugbear. I don't know what it's like at any grounds that anyone watching or listening visits, but I know at Kilmarnock, for example, I don't think it's intentional, but they don't often promote the women's game. Say,
Yeah.
say Kelly at home on a Saturday. They don't even announce at half time. Oh, by the way, the women are in action tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the game tends to be on the Sundays.
Yeah.
And they don't advertise the fact, it's a bit like the Scotland games, that
Mm-hmm.
season ticket holders getting for nothing.
Yeah, it's like Rangers. The only time the men's team are interested are if it's a semi-final that the women are in, a final, or it's the Old Firm. Because the Old Firm, just that was last Friday night, James Tavernier posted a video about it. Go to the game, but that's only because there was no men's football on the weekend.
Yeah. Token gesture is all that is, a token gesture.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, but they definitely should be putting more things out there because I have seen Celtic a few times, like the banners, if you want to call them that, round the pitch. It says like get your tickets for Celtic Women at their website or whatever the link was for, but you don't see that in any other games, even for Scotland games.
No, you don't see it for Scotland games very often at all. I mean, I can't remember which game it was a while ago, Neve. There was a Scotland game I was at where they actually had at half time a couple of the women's players on the pitch. I think
Mhm.
Rachel Dorsey might have been one of them from memory, but maybe dates it a little bit. But even more stuff like that is about raising awareness
Yeah.
because you forget about them. And of course, the women's matches for Scotland do tend to be televised. I mean, the BBC have rights for them, but
Yeah.
of course, not everyone thinks of look as far as BBC Alaba, do they?
No, definitely not. Because I can tell you right now, I can count less than 5 people that speak up Gaelic, and obviously they're trying to make the growth of the women's game a lot bigger, but putting it in BBC Alba is definitely not the move.
No, it isn't. And to be fair to the BBC, to flip what you say on its head about the Gaelic thing, they do at least offer English language commentary.
Yeah.
You've got to press the red button to get it. I mean, I actually speak to very occasionally one of the guys who does the English language commentary, Stuart Mitchell. If you want to shout out, there you go. And it's great, but most people don't get to hear it because they're obviously watching the Gaelic, which is great if you can understand Gaelic, but
Yeah.
most can't.
Most of the time it's just random noise, and then it'll be like, I don't know, Nicola Docherty, blah 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 blah, Saoirse Noonan, blah blah blah. You can only ever catch the names of them and the team names.
Yeah, and I suppose some of the names stick out a bit more, but yeah, but that's it. But that's also an off-putter for getting people to watch the games. Of course, we want you to get along, but if you can't get along, watch it on the telly, whatever. But there needs to be more of a push for it, doesn't there? And
Yeah.
that's a really good comment here. Great hearing all the kids at women's games. That is.
I
That's
especially find it funny at Rangers games. There's a wee group of kids that have got a megaphone, and so they get halfway through a chant and just burst out laughing and get all embarrassed.
Oh no, but that is what it is. The young kids with a megaphone or whatever, getting young kids at the games is brilliant. That's a real sign of progress because
Yeah.
those young kids can be the lifeblood of these women's football clubs going forward, and that's what you need. And it's back to what I think I said, towards the top of the show. It's the women's matches are made more child friendly in some ways. They're more family friendly.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
just get yourself along to them. If you are free on Sunday afternoons, you could do a lot worse. Well, so long as you wrap up for the weather these days.
Yeah,
But,
definitely wrap up it nowadays. But there's a good few. There's Eve. No, should be watching. But there is a good few good big fixtures at the weekend. We've got Glasgow City and Hibs, who are both first and second in the table on Sunday afternoon, which I'm quite looking forward to that game. I know I'll be filming and I can be a bit biased when I'm filming for Glasgow City, but I do like a good rivalry between them all.
Yeah. So before we get into Eve's very valid comment, would you say there is a bit of a rivalry between Glasgow City and Hibs in a minute?
Definitely. Yeah, there definitely is. I think it's just every football team has rivalry, but I think, see, because they are sitting first and second, there's even more of a rivalry there because they want top of the table.
Yeah, but again, that actually outlines one of the key differences between men's and women's football. There's rivalry, but that rivalry is down to competitiveness rather than anything else. There's a lot less vitriol in the women's game. No hatred. You'll see, and I've spoken to ex-women's players who, will do things that move from Celtic to Rangers or vice versa, or Kilmarnock to United, other way around.
Yeah, take Colette Kavanagh for instance. She went Celtic, Rangers, Celtic, and everybody thought it was crazy. But there's not that. There's still the rivalry. Obviously, it's Rangers and Celtic, but it's not as big as the men's game. You don't go to a women's Old Firm in fear that you might get attacked by the opposition fans.
Yeah, you're not getting that in the women's game, and obviously, as E. Miller said a moment ago, more inspired kids means more women in the game in future, and that is what's important. And bear in mind as well, and it is often forgotten about, you know,
Mm.
women can also work in the men's game, and of course,
Definitely.
you know, as in a great example, of course, Shelley Kerr was one of the first ever female managers in the men's game when she took a Stirling University side.
Yeah.
Must have been over a decade ago now. But
Yeah.
you know, that is where opportunity can be. It's not just playing, it's coaching across both the men's and the women's game as well.
Even talking about getting more women in the game, they need more women's refs. You'll get one
Oh,
every now and then, but it would be good to have
definitely.
one consistently every weekend, some would say. But even if it's
Yeah,
every other week, you get one.
absolutely. Just recently, I think it was in the men's game. I think it was Greece against Scotland on Saturday. There, I'm sure one of the assistant referees was a woman, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically rare that you see that. And but the fact is, she was a good enough assistant referee to be doing a UEFA game, which I think says it all.
Yeah. It's they've all got the same qualifications, they've all got the same training, so I don't understand why they sometimes go, nah, you're a woman, you can't do a men's game. It's the same rules in the men's game as it is a woman, and I'm sure it'll be the same rules for the refs as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Although, of course, some listeners will remember, you know, many years ago when a certain individual got sacked from Sky Sports due to comments made about a female match official. So, but that's what it goes back to. It's all old stereotypes of people, well, honestly, believing just wrong information, frankly. There's no sugarcoating it. We need to get rid of the misconceptions, really.
Yeah, well, I seen recently, I can't remember, it was on a platform somewhere. I don't know if it was a recent game or it was just like reoccurring news that there was a woman ref and she was refing a men's game, and one of the players told her to get back to the kitchen, and he got a red card and sent off, and he got made to go coach the girls team.
Well,
That comment.
that's what that's one way to make them learn, I guess. But those sort of comments and that sort of stereotype there that you point out, Eve, that's exactly what we need to stamp out. And
Definitely.
yeah,
Oh, well, there we go. I think we lost you for a minute there, Laurie.
we're back. We're back
We're
in
back.
the
There we go. But obviously, in the SWPL, you don't get the title races like that in the men's game where all four top teams are on the same points coming into the last two games of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't get that at all. Like, I mean, obviously, in the men's game this year, everyone's optimistically hoping for a title race at the moment. But I'm using those words deliberately, optimistically hoping, whereas in the SWPL, you can expect a title race. You
Definitely.
know, I mean, a few years ago, when it was between Rangers and Glasgow City, and you can correct me. Um, the SPFL, who's obviously got the SWPL under their control now,
Mhm.
literally had, rather than the helicopter that you've seen in the men's game in the past, the trophy in a taxi,
Yeah,
ready to be handed out.
yeah. I think that was the season
Were
that
you involved in that at all? Were you
I
there?
was there. I was sitting at the Rangers game. I think we were winning 4-0. Celtic were sitting at a draw, which meant Rangers were winning the SWPL, and the
Yeah.
Celtic went into extra time. And of course, Celtic being Celtic and liking to score last minute goals, they scored in the last 15 seconds of extra time to win the SWPL that season. And I was raging, I'll tell you that.
I can imagine you were raging. I mean,
Can't say the language that I used in this because there might be kids watching it. So I'll keep my mouth shut and I'll just say I was raging.
yeah, we'll stick with raging there, Neve. But yeah, like, but that's it. And in the men's game, you are very, very seldom are you going to get a cycle race like that here in Scotland. So that is another big selling point. No matter who you support, go and support your women's team if you can, no matter what level they're at, because the reality is, even if they are further down the pyramid, right? The
Mm-hmm.
only way to to move forward is to give them support, give them what they need, and remember, a lot of these clubs are very community focused and are very just
Mm-hmm.
mindful of the world we live in at the moment, which you can argue some of the men's sides and the more commercial side of it fail to read the room sometimes. So the women's game can be quite refreshing on that front.
Mm-hmm. But I think I wouldn't say it's an issue. It's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. The women's teams are getting allowed to play in you can say the men's stadium, the club stadium. But see, when you look at them, like pictures of the fans, they're not even filling a full stand, which I think it's good to see them playing in these big stadiums. But take for the looks of like Arsenal, they sell out the Emirates. It's the Emirates of fault.
Yeah, you're right.
I have to be mindful there. They're selling out that every weekend, the women's team, and sometimes it's like dribs and drabs along a stand at either Celtic Park or Ibrox.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to actually see and witness the fan because I mean I've been there at Rugby Park where I was actually there the night when they had what was their record attendance actually, and it was a freezing cold midweek, and you're lucky, and I'm not meaning to be disrespectful to Kilmarnock or SWPL to be lucky if it was a number in three figures, right? And to put things into perspective, so Kilmarnock at the moment they do play their matches at Rugby Park, the women's team, which many people see as a positive, right? However, all going to plan as of next season, all going to plan, the women's team will effectively have their own stadium at Kilmarnock's new purpose-built training ground, which is under construction at the moment. And to put things into perspective, the capacity for that, it's one stand with 250 seats, which, yes, it might sound small, but I tell you what, it'll look better to have them fill that than have an empty Rugby Park with one stand open with 100 people in it.
Yeah, definitely. They can start small and they can build their way up to filling out Rugby Park.
Absolutely. And of course, that applies, right the way through. I mean, Arsenal in the WSL are a great example where they do use the club's regular stadium and they fill it out. And that's down to success, really. Even if you look at some of the other clubs in that league, like say we mentioned Chelsea as we spoke about Eric Cuthbert a while ago. How often, not never, but how often really do they use Stamford Bridge?
Yeah. It's not very often, but when they do, I don't think they're selling it out like Arsenal are.
No. And again, to put things into a Scottish context, I don't have the figure in front of me, Neve, but the record for a Scotland match was it only 12,000 odd for a competitive one? I think it was that game against Ireland that I mentioned earlier. We might have beat it with that friendly against Jamaica a few years ago before they went off the World Cup. But for a competitive game, I think it's like 12,000 odd. And again,
I think it's
that was in freebies.
Yeah.
Which probably puts it into perspective. But I feel like Scotland has got a unique opportunity when it comes to women's football attendances because, of course, as a nation, we have the highest attendances per capita in Europe, and we have done for years. So if we can't translate that to the women's game, I don't know. I kind of think, unfortunately, it's rooted in a wee bit of sexism here or there, but we need to change that.
I think that'll always be there,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. But on the topic of Scotland, and I don't know if Michael's going to join us back for this conversation, what happened on Tuesday night? There he is.
There we go. There he is.
Qualified for the World Cup for the first time in 27 years.
Unbelievable. And I
Yeah.
can just say quickly before we bring Michael in, Neve, having been there on Tuesday night, to be honest, my voice is just about recovered-ish. No, but seriously, it was incredible just to be there because it feels like, you know, for a generation of fans, or for a few generations of fans now, it's felt like a pipe dream. It's felt like something that would never happen. And now, here we are, first time in '98, and we're heading over to North America, and it's going to be incredible. But I tell you what, and Michael, your view on this may well be interesting. Neve, feel free to fire in as well. Steve Clark, there was many people who were on the fence with him during this campaign and even before it. But now we're talking about giving him all these honours and statues and best manager ever. I mean, where do we stand on all of that?
I think that tends to happen with anything that happens with good in football in this country.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they've won a game and it's all praise them, give them this, give them that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you guys watched the show on Tuesday night, but by the time we came on air about 10 o'clock, I was kind of hoarse. And by the time we went off air about, we stayed on air till about 11:30, and I was dying to get off because my voice was going to die. But I was brilliant. Like, I was watching it in the house and I was jumping about. The neighbours thought, well, what's he on tonight? Like, but it was a brilliant feeling, like, for the whole nation. But I think Stephen McGowan summed up nicely on the radio yesterday, like, no matter what colour, like, what colour you are, what race you are, this is for everyone. Like, we've only got one scarf and all that, and I was just got a kind of brilliant moment. Incidentally, I was getting an article yesterday as well, and like, I was like 1998. I was about I think I was like 7 or 8 at school, right? And I was going through that. I was going through the archives because I wanted to mix it up, and you guys won't remember this, but that was a year that the Game Boy came out, and also that was like the year that Scotland got its own Scottish Parliament. So all these kind of like historical things as well. But yeah, it was brilliant to see.
Yeah, bet it would have, because me and Laurie wouldn't have seen the last time they were in a World Cup. So you're basically, you could say, reliving it again from all those years ago.
Yeah, I can remember a wee bit better now. I know Eve is scared to call me a bit of an old man, but it's okay because if you watch the show on a Friday night, they call me worse, believe you me. But yeah, I mean, it would be good to actually remember the games, because I can't really remember about 98. Like, I know John Collins scored the penalty, and I think it was Tom Boyd that scored the own goal against Brazil. But yeah, I mean, I know Laurie's in the army, but are you going to try and go to America?
I don't know if I will, but here's the annoying thing. I don't know how it will work out practically, but obviously I'll probably have enough membership points for it, because obviously I had enough to get to Germany for the opening game of Euro 24. And for what it's worth, Scotland, by the way, has some sort of history, it seems, with opening games at tournaments. I mean, just look at, I'm sure Scotland against Brazil that you mentioned was actually the opening game of that tournament.
Yeah.
And wow, here's something here. World Cup songs. I wonder if we'll have one of them for this upcoming tournament. But going to the launch of the 1998 World Cup song, when you think of loans for that, I mean, what would that be? Carnival de Paris, I'm guessing? I mean, or was there a specific Scottish one? Oh, there was, wasn't there? When was the one in Prestwick Airport done? Where Scotland Henry doing Keep It Up in the video? Was that for 98 or 96?
I'm not,
that, feel free to get back to us.
yeah, I'm not so sure. But like, yeah,
The really pessimistic Daily Meatfish track, but don't
Yeah.
come home too soon or whatever it was.
I was just about to say that. Like, I hope they don't bring that back out because hopefully, like, that's not omen. But like, when I was watching that game the other night, I mean, I wasn't about in 19. I can't remember the year, but I think it was a Scotland squad sang "I Have a Dream," and I don't know about you guys, but I woke up on Wednesday morning. And all I could think was that song kind of in my head. And I was like, that, no, it actually happened. Like, we actually went to a World Cup, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say 1982, Michael. I mean, to be fair, as that song said, I woke in the night with a fever and the sky was the darkest blue. A still small voice was calling to me, your country is needing you. And the Tartan Army came out in numbers on Tuesday night and it was brilliant.
I'm just gonna, because I'm quite stag that way, right? I'm gonna check it and see if you're right. So, 19,
Let's see,
1992, is that what you said? Yeah.
1982, final answer, 82.
Yeah.
Let's check it.
There you go. Well done. You won a coconut. Yeah. So no, it was brilliant. But I don't know about you guys, right? But see, after the game, right? I didn't feel that a Tuesday night. I felt like Saturday.
Yeah. Also, see, like, when I woke up on Wednesday, I was like, that was a dream. We're not actually going to the World Cup. I actually had to check in my phone, like, are we actually going? Because I was like, there's no way that's happened. That was just a really good dream I had.
Like, it honestly, Neve, see being there even after the game, it honestly felt like a dream. I was one of the last people out of Hampden. It felt like you had to milk that moment for
Yeah.
everything it was worth. And also just to bring things back round to what we were talking about on this show, of course, the women's game, and simply getting the third or fourth mention on the show tonight. Erin Cuthbert was asked in the media earlier today about it,
I've seen this.
and she was, and so if you can back this up, she was absolutely buzzing about
Yeah.
getting to a tournament.
I don't think anything could have wiped that smile off her face.
No, she was delighted. I mean, most players, and you'll understand this as well, working in the media, most players absolutely hate doing press. That's no secret. But I mean,
Yeah.
I bet you Erin was up for it today.
Yeah. Didn't want to talk about Chelsea, just wanted to talk about Scotland.
Yep.
So it tends to happen after the big games. That's all you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes a big difference compared to years ago when, you know, you were watching teams like Betty Volks and like they were getting beat like 4-0 away to Liechtenstein and stuff like that, you know, like, because I mean, it's hard to believe now, right? But it was right of a tour to watch Scotland. You know, it's like Scotland's on tonight, and you're like that. Oh no, I can't be bothered watching Scotland. But now it's like that. Yeah, it's Scotland, and then it's back to the club football this weekend. But it's quite funny because it's like, no, I want to keep watching Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I feel, to be honest, with obviously my team having lost 5 games on the bounce. So can we keep watching Scotland, Michael? Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Watch the highlights on repeat. Don't watch Kilmarnock at the weekend.
I think that would be for the better, Neve, to be honest. Yeah, I think that would very much be for the better. I mean, I've been quite good so far, maybe because I was doing stuff earlier today and because at university yesterday. I've only actually watched the highlights once since the end of the game, which is really good. But
is that a rare occurrence for you, Laurie?
Yeah, because I'm one of these dafties, and I'm calling myself a dafty on air. Yes, I am, and it's a little old school. I'm one of these dafties who will record entire games and happily sit and watch back. So yeah,
I would do that too as well, depending on the game.
yeah. Had to be on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I was brilliant the other night, and like in terms of like the media, everybody was talking about the media like down south and all
Yeah.
over the national news, and I was like, oh yeah, that's brilliant to see, because
Yeah.
I was all set to, believe it or not, I put in a group chat to the guys who's available for Thursday to do the draw for the playoffs. And then somebody texted me after the game to say, pardon, what did you say? And I was like, right, okay, I'll take it back now. Someone's Hasley somebody is watching on YouTube. It says, who in your opinion, who was the best goal on Tuesday night? So that's a difficult one.
Yeah, right. Okay, I was at the game, so I'll go first, right? I mean, I think we all know, and apologies to Lauren Shankman, I think we all know it's between three. My gut instinct out of it is that Kieran Tierney's was the best. And I'd say Tierney, but they all have their merits, don't they? And yeah, indeed, that is why you ask, because it's really difficult. Because it's honestly three of the best Scotland goals, and indeed, four if you want to include Lauren Shankland, of the most important.
Yeah. Oh, that is a tough question. Do you know what to do? We flip it in them. What was their best goal of the night? Yeah.
Let us know a little bit of viewer interaction here on the Scottish Football Zone, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I must confess, right, but I never saw Kenny McLean's goal, right, because I was busy shouting at him. He take it to the corner.
You were one of the ones shouting at him.
I bet you initially though, Michael, Steve Clark was doing the same, so I wouldn't worry too much. But I mean, here's the thing with Kenny McLean's goal. I'm going to be controversial. In the second half, at some point, I think it was Shea Adams had an opportunity to hit it like that and didn't take it. So I think Kenny McLean probably thought, right, the whistle's about to go here. It's last kick, because to be honest with you, the referee played well over the 6 minutes. And hit it.
But a lot of people forget this, right? We've got to say thanks to Denmark for that, Rory, right? Because see, when you think about it, and these, like, if they didn't make that sub, Kenny McLean wouldn't have got that goal.
Yeah.
That's very true. Indeed.
So thanks, Denmark.
Yep.
We love you for that. But no, I think I was jumping about the living room at that point, so I never actually saw the goal until the replay. But no, it was a brilliant goal. But I think you're right, Rory, because every goal has its own story. I think I was happy for Tierney because he's been battling injury for the past few seasons against Arsenal. And I was happy for Shankland as well, because for a while, if you're usually watching the Scottish Football Zone, I'm sorry to keep harping on about this, but I've been wanting Shankland to start for Scotland for ages. And I was happy for him as well. So, but I can't put my finger on the best goal of the night. So
they were all amazing goals, and
exactly.
They got us into the World Cup. We don't need to pick one.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's good for the nation as well, but also I think it's good for the women's game as well, because even though it's a men's team, but I mean, it shines a light on Scottish football needs as a whole for men and women.
Yeah, definitely, because the women's that was a good goal as well.
There we go, McTominay. Well, here's the thing for you. If you like Scott McTominay's goal, we were talking about World Cup songs a minute ago. There was literally a song released earlier in the year in tribute to Scott McTominay from a guy from Prestwick actually called Nick Morgan, who did like No Scotland No Party, which went mad in Germany. The song is literally called Scott McTominay, and it's all about him. I think it's a parody actually of I want to say a Celine Dion track. You can find it on various
Yep.
streaming services.
Yeah. But what I was saying before was a lot, obviously, if we want to get technical and stuff, is Scotland as a nation. We have been in the World Cup in the past 6 years. I know people start shouting at me for that because, put it this way, my little brother was the other night when I said that to him, but we'll just ignore that part. But if I went out in the street and asked people, when was the last time Scotland were in a World Cup? I can guarantee you every single one of them would say 98 because the women's game doesn't get the recognition it deserves.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely. And it's how many people, and this is really unfortunate to say, but how many people were aware of what 2019? How many people were switched on to it? And that's something that is improving across the board. It is. But there's so much more work being done on that. And
Definitely.
And put it this way, and this sounds really bad, but even if you were to walk down the street and, go 50-50 with asking men and women, you would still get the 1998 response from a lot of women as well. So it's not about the actual genders themselves. It's about just raising awareness of women's games. There's lots of women who watch men's football but still don't think to watch the women. I don't really know what the solution to that is, but yeah.
It's probably because most of them don't know their team has a women's team. Because I will admit, I only started watching women's football after the Lionesses won the Euros for the first time. And I'll be honest, I didn't have a Scooby that Rangers had a women's team. And I only found out they had one because I was like, oh, the Lionesses have won the Euros. And then they started listing all their teams. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's the same in Scotland. All the men's team have women's teams.
Do you think as well, I know you follow Glasgow City and Rangers, right, and other women's teams as well, right? But do you think that on the back of your point there, you think that more people are watching the women's game that wants to be like, I want to play football for Celtic and Rangers and all that. I want to get involved in women's football.
Definitely. Because it's all the young kids that are watching them, all the young girls who can see, they all dream of playing football and they can see it actually happening now. Because think about some of these players and obviously older retired players, they wouldn't have had all these players to look up to. Christ, most of the players when these teams started out, football was still banned. Like the first recorded women's game against England and Scotland played that when women's football was still banned in Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone maybe watching or listening to this doesn't know about it, take a wee bit of time tonight and look up Rose Riley, and you'll see this woman face shooting in Ayrshire in an Italy shirt before too long, and that's why, because it was banned, it was outlawed, and it was people, and to be honest, brave people and characters like they got the women's game off the ground. I mean, there's been plenty of documentaries and stuff about Rose Riley as well. Look the story up if you haven't already, because she's just brilliant, and she's a right hook to listen to as well. And she's actually I've met her as well, and I think you have, Michael. She's a really nice person too.
Well, here's a fun fact for you. The women's game actually got banned because when the wars were happening, the women all started playing and it got too popular. And when the men came back from war, nobody went to watch them. So their solution was, let's ban it and nobody can watch it or play it. So that's the only reason it got banned.
Yeah, but that ban obviously rooted in sexism and whatever, of course, and it's so glaringly obvious there. But the fact that it was so popular what that does even now in 2025 it proves the potential for growth that women's game really has.
Mm.
Definitely.
I mean, sometimes I really get annoyed because obviously I know like you and Laurie were talking about this earlier on about sponsorship and all that. But if you look at down in England, every single maybe second game is on now in England. You get a game on Sunday and you get a game on Friday and all that. But we always get 2 games on BBC Alba as well, and that's better, that's progress, but you want kind of like more. And plus that, if you see more games on the TV, you'll get more fans.
Yeah, definitely. But it's
Absolutely.
even when they are on the telly, all the kickoffs seem to be the same time. So
Mhm.
even if you wanted to go to more than one game, you can't, because unless you can split yourself in half and be in 2 places at the one time, you're only going to end up being at one game. Because I know I obviously do the media for Glasgow City and I support Rangers. I know I've had to leave games early to go to other games because I want to be at both games and support the 2 teams.
I mean, I'm a bit of ashamed because I'm the only one tonight that's never been to a women's game. But how much is it to get into like a normal kind of league game? Because I bet you it's much cheaper than the men's game.
Do you know what we'll do, Michael? You take a guess and we'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
Yeah, so
And a wee hint, I think I maybe gave you a hint maybe about 20 minutes ago of how much it might cost you.
right, okay, so okay, so I'm going to say about £16.
Nope.
I'm a hot or cold or nothing like that. Hot. Okay. 15.
Nah.
No.
Still what? You're not there though.
Could be a long show. This. 14. I'm going down. No.
Close. You're even closer. You're really warm now.
Well, 12.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
think
That's a
That's
massive difference.
that's like the most expensive you'll get in the league.
That's like the dearest you'll get.
And
And
I think
obviously
that Celtic charge that for the tickets.
And then there's some teams, of course, Michael, who will incentivize people who have like season tickets for the men's games who either get it cheaper or in some cases free. I know, like say Kilmarnock and SWPL2 give free entry to season ticket holders, although it doesn't. I'll be honest, it doesn't really drive attendances up, but that's because of a lack of awareness more than anything.
Yeah.
Some of them probably see the ticket come through and be like, "What the hell is this? What have I been sent?"
Yeah.
So you would think a lot of people will go in because it's a lot cheaper than the men's game. I mean, like people's season tickets is at games, but also as well, like I was looking at somebody sent me a text message the other day of like a list of was it Man City's home games up until Christmas, and they were like £200 and odd pound. It was like £250, and this was just for a one-off game. You know,
Easy if you're buying tickets at that price.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of stupid money as well. You know.
It can be justified that when you go Neve.
No, well, when I first started going to the women's game, so it would have been 2022 season to get in.
Yeah, but that's it. Like, it's just one of these things where people think it's going to be like the men's game. People naively assume that are going to priced out. The amount of people who don't look at it and then go, oh, or I suppose I'm maybe not the best example for this in the world, but like if you are free on a Sunday afternoon, you could do a lot worse. That's the one thing. It's and this seems really backwards to say. It's fighting up against like the Sky Super Sunday or whatever. People will want to sit in their own home when it's nice and warm and watch a random EPL game rather than supporting the women's team sometimes. But then I'm never sure what the solution to that is, because I was well, again, a couple of years ago when I was speaking to Jim Chapman, as I mentioned earlier on, from Man Women's Manager at the moment, he was like, well, with the nature of a lot of the players still being part time, there's no way you could have you could maybe have it on another day. Plus, people always try and suggest, well, why couldn't you have the men's game and the women's game on the same day? But then it just isn't possible in terms of, referees, players, and all that, and in the one space at one time. It's all, but it would be good for driving a crowd up for sure. But it's just one of these things that, especially in this day and age, just wouldn't quite be allowed.
Yeah, I know sometimes, like, if Rangers and Celtic, Rangers men and women are playing at the same time, like, or on the same day even, they try to do it. So if some fans do want to go to both games, they do the timings. So, like, say one kicks off at 12, and then the SWPL do the really awkward time of 4:10, so you can get to both games if you wanted to.
Well, that's progress. I mean, I can tell you they don't do that in the second tier for what it's worth, because the odd time where, say, the Kilmarnock men's team, for example, play on the Sunday, and it's at Rugby Park, obviously the men's team play at whatever time. Say it is 3 o'clock on the Sunday, which for me I personally quite hate, but it happens. And well, that is what it is. But obviously they can't use Rugby Park, so the women's team are usually shipped off to Cumnock, of all places, and they have to play there. But the reality is, if the game kicks off at the same time, right, and you've got the choice of sitting at Rugby Park or going to Cumnock, what are you going to do?
I think we know a lot of people's answers to that.
See, I think that's why when I set this channel up, I say to the guys, yeah, we'll do the football show on a Friday, and obviously the Scotland games, and we do kind of like European games for like Celtic, Rangers, and Aberdeen. But I wanted to do a show about women's football, Neve. I wanted to get every aspect of football, because people think it's about Celtic and Rangers, and that's it. But there's no, it's like Kilmarnock, and there's other clubs like that, and women's football, and junior football, and youth football, and disabled football as well. So it's not all about the kind of, what you would say, the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow.
Yeah, that's why I like the women's football, because it's a mix of all the teams. Like, how long has it been before? Oh gosh, can't speak anymore. How long ago was it another team was at the top of the men's table? Like, I couldn't even tell you the last time it's not been either Rangers or Celtic. But
it was what, again in the 80s, wasn't it? Was it not Aberdeen under Alex Ferguson?
Yeah, but I think maybe like I think you would be maybe looking back to the early 90s when, funny enough, it was Hearts with George Burley, and obviously George, believe it or not, I think George Burley got the sack because they were winning games. Try and work that one out. I'm not sure, because they were owned by the a get taker. He would say Romanoff, I think his name was, and
It was.
so I think that's what happened. But they were only at the top maybe for a few months. But I think you're right, Laurie. I think you would have to go back to the good old 80s, and it was Aberdeen.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the women's team. I know I've said it many times tonight, but there's that mix and variety. Like, it could literally change like that. Like, I think it's something like, I want to say like 8 points between the top 4 teams. It's 8 or 9, which that can change within a game or two. Like, Rangers are sitting 4th now. In a matter of 2 weeks, they could be first and top of the table. And Glasgow City, who are first, could be 4th. It just all depends your opponents, really.
I think it's good how like we're doing this show as well to promote the game and make people aware about get along to your local team like Kilmarnock, or like you go to leave Glasgow City or Rangers, or even if it brings in 2 more fans or whatever. Okay, it's only 2, but it's 2 more fans that you didn't have last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 2 more fans who they themselves can then say, oh, I really enjoyed that. And then they say to their fans, that's just how word of mouth works. And that's the thing. Whereas word of mouth is really powerful still, even in the age of social media and like of ourselves doing podcasts and whatever. Word of mouth is still really powerful. And you see that within the women's game. Because, and remember as well, the women's game is mostly staffed by the likes of volunteers as well. So these are people giving up their time, and Neve, you'll know this better than anyone on here, is people giving up their time and doing it because they love doing it. And that's one way of giving back, is supporting your local women's team.
Yep. And it won't break the bank to go see them either.
No.
I'm sure people could spare a tenner to go see them. Even, I know Celtic's tickets are £12, but even some teams, they're still £6-7, which, in all honesty, that's not a lot. And I'm sure you'd be happy to pay that instead of what is some men's team tickets, £50 for one ticket.
Yeah, and put it into perspective, right? Tickets for an Old Firm, doesn't matter which part of Glasgow it's in for the men's games. What price are they if you can get one? I know they're Gold Dust, right? If
on you go.
Sorry, but we're trying to say, if you can give the price in a wee second. If you're a fan of either Old Firm side and want an affordable Old Firm ticket, look no further than the women's games. I know there was one recently, but yeah.
I think I was looking for tickets to the Old Firm final at Hampden last season for my little brother's birthday, and I said to him, I'll get you them for your birthday if I can get you tickets. And I went and looked at the price. It was nearly at £500, and that was for one ticket. And I'm like, I'm not, unless you want to half me for your birthday present, you're not getting it.
Was that for a standard ticket and not for a 3-course meal and hospitality?
Yep.
Jeez, oh.
I know. And the Old Firm there on Friday, the women's one, me and my dad to go, I think we were £22 each. Well, not each, together, sorry.
Yeah, aye. So again, it's about £12, really.
Yeah.
I
must admit, it was probably more entertaining than the men's team. Nobody diving or screaming blooming Bloody Mary in the pitch because they've been injured, and then they realise the rest not giving them their card, so they get up and walk away.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got time for tonight. That was brilliant. Thanks to Laurie and thanks to me for being a brilliant host. We'll hopefully be doing this next month or in a couple of weeks. But it's really just to focus on women's football in Scotland as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're on the Scottish Football Zone, and this will be available as a podcast as well. So if you don't want to watch us, you can listen to us on our Spotify channel. Just look for the Football Zone on YouTube. On YouTube. No, it's not on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Michael. And don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night for the weekend preview of the Premiership, and we're back in action. So thanks to all your comments. Thanks to the people that's watching tonight. Thanks to Laurie and Neve, and we'll be back tomorrow night live at 5 o'clock.
Focusing on women's football on Her Football World.